that was fun.
Oh.
Are we on? Yes. Yay. Hopefully things are working. So the last minute we found out we didn't have our microphones plugged in, so I was plugging in microphones. Hopefully you are watching and everything is working. If not, let us know in the comments. Just let us know if you have any AV problems. Because we are streaming both to our Facebook and to our YouTube. So we're starting to stream over to our YouTube now, so people who aren't on Facebook, can see us without having to join Facebook. Because I know actually quite a few people aren't on Facebook anymore for probably some pretty good reasons. And we're still on because a lot of our connections are on there. But isn't it interesting if you're like on Facebook that it started out as, I think originally we had 15 people we were connected to because it was just for family. It's like doing pictures and videos and updating on just what's going on with the family members. And now we all have 5,000 friends who most we don't know who they are. So that ever ongoing mysterious question of, does social media bring us closer together or further apart? Probably a little of both. So anyway, all right. So welcome. This is S.A.L.T. Live, Seeking a Living Truth. It's something me, Miranda, and Aspen do just for fun because we enjoy doing it. And today we're going to be talking about love versus infatuation. But before we get to our main topic, we're going to go to our little section where we talk about how to make the world a better place in the section that we call Helping Hands. So I am checking in. I'm just saying hello to people. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, Lisa, way from out west. Thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it. So wherever you're at today, you might have a pretty good chance of having some snow still. We do. Still lots of snow on the ground. Still cold temperatures. So it's still a winter wonder chilly land here, which, outside of driving up our heat bills, does give us opportunity for doing some simple but very amazing helpful things to our neighbors. And for the last 2 weeks, if you'll remember, if you caught us, I was talking about snow angels, where you can sign up online, volunteer to be a volunteer to go and help clear snow from people's driveways and front doors and just kind of make a little bit of a helping hand to your neighbors and helping them dig out where, if they don't have shovels or maybe they're a little too old to get out there in this cold, and you can help make their days a little brighter by shoveling the snow for them. This one's kind of along those lines, but instead of shoveling snow, it's going to be going out and helping people who had not such a great experience with snow. And I think it's a great, another great opportunity for a church to take this kind of ministry on. But instead of me explaining it, I'm going to play you a video from Texas where this was taking place, and they're going to do a kind of overview and show you what I'm talking about. So for Helping Hands, here's a little news report from Texas.
And with this weather, situation is dire all across Central Texas. And as with any disaster, we always see Texans helping Texans. That's certainly no different with this winter weather that we've been having. And joining us now on the phone, we have Ryan Sivley, who's been helping people that are stranded on our roadways. Good morning to you, Ryan.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. I know you've been busy, so busy. Tell us about your plan to help stranded drivers and who you've been helping.
Well, I've been helping anybody I find on the side of the road. I do a lot of off-roading with different groups in Austin. So I had nylon recovery straps and chains, and I have 2 trucks that are four-wheel drive. I have a dually Chevy diesel that's four-wheel drive, and I have a Toyota SJ Cruiser that's four-wheel drive. So the last 3 days, all I've been doing is pulling people off the road and giving people safe rides.
That's
Last
fantastic.
night I was at Seton and St. David's taking patients home.
Yes, I know you mentioned that to me. You mentioned you're helping out stranded motorists, with their cars, but then also picking up, stranded nurses at Seton or other places. What's the kind of reception that you're getting?
Usually some people give me like $5 or $10 for gas, but everybody's been really happy. Everyone's been really excited. A lot of people are really upset because they have no electricity or water. So I've been trying to find places to take people. I've actually taken families from one home to another just so they have utilities.
Wow. And we've got to talk about this. March 1st of last year, if I recall, you were in a bad accident. You almost lost your life.
Well, I got hit by a few cars on a Harley. I think I sent you guys some of the information, but yeah, I can't do more than 20 pounds in my left arm, and I can't walk for more than 2 hours a day. So it's just, I can drive a truck. It's pretty simple, and I've been picking up anyone I can who wants to sit in my truck and help me hook cars up.
I think it's wonderful because you're really helping others and you're really paying it forward, considering that, you were in a bad accident. You want to make sure others don't get in an accident. And you said, you have a truck, and you're right. You've got the heavy duty, you've got the dually, you've got the equipment to help people out. If someone needs your help, how can they reach out to you?
Call me on my cell phone. That's all I'm doing. I don't have a job, so I'm literally out here 24/7 with anyone who can help.
Let me tell you, why is it important for you to help out and for others to help each other during this time? Why is it important to you?
Well, put yourself in their shoes. If you were sitting on the side of the road with your wife and your kids and you're freezing in a car and it's not running and you don't have anywhere to go and you don't have anyone to call, what do? I've actually seen wreckers turning people away because they won't pull them out due to liability. What do? Stay in your car and just freeze to death? If I was in that spot, I'd beg and hope somebody would help me. So that's what I'm doing. You're right.
We're going to hopefully pass along that information or your phone number. Actually, can you just say your number really quick so we can give our viewers your number in case, they need some help?
Sure. My cell phone number is 512-696-5965. I mean, this is all I'm doing, just helping out whoever I can. I'm not asking for anything. If someone helps out with a few hours for gas, that's great. That's all I'm looking for.
By the way, Ryan, as far as you're working pretty much almost around the clock, right? I mean, whenever they call, you're ready to help.
I ran from 4 a.m. till about midnight last night. And, I mean, I had people call me, and they're like, job story, I'm stuck, I'm freezing, I got my kids with me. I can't tell them no.
You can't. Ryan, you're an angel, and, there's a reason that you're around, for more than one reason, right? But you're really paying it forward and helping others, so we appreciate all that you're doing.
My pleasure.
All right.
You guys?
It was pretty darn cool. I thought that was awesome. Isn't that a great illustration of taking an experience you had in life and using it as motivation to, do things that you can do and make the world a better place? So here this guy had sort of a life-death experience. Yeah, he had that accident, and he was almost really bad for him. And instead of getting depressed and down or angry, he took that experience and decided he was going to, with his new lease on life, help people. And so what did he have? He had this amazing truck, a dually. If you don't know what a dually is, it's got 4 wheels in the back. I didn't know that till I worked at Leone Meadows, the camp there, and one of the staff members kept talking about their dually. Had no idea what the dually was, but I kept talking like I knew what it was, saying, yeah, dualies are great. Boy, if I could get one, I'd probably get maybe 2 or 3 just so I had enough to, and they just let me go on and on and on talking about the dually that I had no idea what I was talking about. Anyway, it's a pickup truck. It's got the 2 wheels in the front and the 4 in the back. And so he has that, he has some ropes, he has some chains, and he goes around and he helps people, pull out of the snow when they get stuck, which happens a lot. And right now in Texas, it happens an awful lot because of all the snow and, everywhere. But it was really interesting. It thought, like, Jesus says, love our neighbors. And today we're talking about love versus infatuation, and it made me think of what the Apostle John was talking about in 1st, 2nd, 3rd John. He said, "Dear brothers, let us not love with just words, but actions and deeds." So he's basically saying, walk your talk. If you're going to talk about it, walk it, because probably if you walk it, you won't really need to talk it so much. It will be obvious to everyone. And there was a friend of mine who was telling me just last night, he was talking about the stuff their family does for Christmas. They throw popcorn in the back of the truck, and they drive around to firehouses and ERs and people who are having to work on Christmas Eve, and they go in and they, give them free popcorn, flavored popcorn. I hope it's caramel popcorn, because that's the one that I would like. If you came to me, Merry Christmas, and gave me cheese and cayenne pepper popcorn, I would put on a smile, thank you very much, and then into the trash it would go, because this guy cannot handle spice. I guess I could give it to Colby. Colby loves spice. Aspen can do more spice than I can. I'm not sure about Miranda. Miranda, I think, is somewhere in the middle. Miranda, let's go to split screen Studio A and B. Aspen's fingers are flying as I'm talking, because this is impromptu right now. So you're like, what? Ah! This is what we do here. And and I think we talked about this before, but I don't remember if Miranda's a big spice. I don't know where Colby gets it from. Miranda, are you a spice? Are you anywhere near Colby or?
0 next to Colby's 10. Yeah, but I like a little bit of spice.
A little bit of spice. What's your favorite kind of popcorn?
Kettle corn.
Oh, kettle corn! I forgot about kettle corn. That's really good.
Yeah, kettle corn, or just the popcorn that Aspen makes.
Yes.
On the stove, and then you pour on some olive oil and salt, and it's super tasty.
Popcorn that someone else makes for you, always a winner. Kettle corn, have we ever made kettle corn?
No.
No. Because we usually that's like at the fair or something.
Mm-hmm.
And you get kettle corn, you get, what's the big flat thing with sugar on it? Funnel cake.
Yes.
Funnel cake, that's right. Yeah, so hey, in the comments, what's your favorite flavor of popcorn? Is it caramel? Is it regular? Butter and salt? Just butter? No salt? Watch your blood pressure.
It is good with a little Tabasco sauce on it.
Oh.
Popcorn. Yeah.
And following in today's segment, we're going to talk about how to ruin popcorn. Cayenne pepper, Tabasco.
Yeah,
what?
Tabasco sauce.
Oh. I'm a Southerner, so I guess I would have popcorn.
You probably
with an RC soda.
pour cups of boiling butter over it.
Everything's better with
good.
butter. Yes, lots of butter. And then you deep fry it. Deep fried popcorn. That's going to be our new thing. Anyway, so yeah, let us know. Do you like kettle corn in the comments? What's your favorite kind of popcorn? And yeah, that'd be fun. Okay, so moving on. I was going back to, wouldn't it be great if a church... Yes, Aspen?
You have a comment.
I have a comment.
About popcorn. Lisa Buller says, popcorn on the stove made with oil. I like butter, salt, and nutritional yeast.
Lisa likes popcorn on the stove with oil, butter, yeast.
Butter, salt, and nutritional yeast.
Butter, salt, and nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast, as opposed to regular yeast. I don't know what that means, but I'm sure it's better for you.
Aspen likes it that way.
Aspen loves it that way. Aspen knows what Lisa's talking about. Brett, however, does not. But I'm sure it's really yummy. What's the nutritional yeast? Yeast that's good for you.
The tan flaky stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. Yeah, good stuff. All right. Back to the thing. So yes, wouldn't it be awesome if a church, because how many churches do you know, we're a loving church, we're an open church, we love everybody, come as you are, da-da-da. You hear that a lot from a lot of different churches. And while parts of that may be true, one of the good measuring sticks as to the impact of your church, how loving it is imagine if your church would disappear tomorrow, would anybody miss it? Other than its own members, would anybody notice, So kind of like, what kind of impact do you make in your community? And so it's one thing to talk about, being a loving church. It's another thing to actually take the time and energy and effort to be a loving church to your community. And this is one way that is a really great way. You can get even a team together. And we kind of did this in California when I was at the Carmichael Church there. We got a team together and gave everybody CBs. And they went driving around, and this was just in the summertime, so we weren't pulling out of snow. We were looking for flat tires, out of gas, anything, the people along the highway. And they would just drive along the highway. And every car had something, one or two things they could fix, but if they didn't have it with them, they'd get on the CB and say, hey, we are over at exit 264, and we need materials to change a tire. And then whoever had that would come over there, and they would change the tire. And that was it. It was just helping people out. Wouldn't it be awesome if a church could do that? Get a little group together, you know, find somebody that's got four-wheel drive and chains and stuff and say, just drive around and let's see who we can find that needs a little helping hand to pull out of the snowbank. So there you go. Another way to make a difference in the world. If you have the tools and talents to help people out of the snow, there's a great way to do it. All right, we're going to go to our next section that everybody knows and loves is the object lesson section. This one's going to be fun. Well, I'll tell you at the end of the video. You might notice some things, but anyway, here we go with Aspen's object lesson.
Today is February 16th, 2021, and I can safely say if you live anywhere in the Northern Hemisphere, you are cold. There's a polar vortex covering most of North America. So we thought it would be fun to try that physics trick where you throw boiling water into frigid air. But this experiment is the Arctic version of trying to fry eggs on the hood of a car. So here's our take on the classic throwing boiling water into frigid air. Happening when you throw really hot water into really cold air. Actually, there are several frisky physical phenomena factoring in here, and we're going to ferret out some fun facts just for you. Frisky physics factor 1. Vaporize, to convert or be converted into vapor. The vaporization of an element or compound is a phase transition from the liquid phase to vapor. Hot water evaporates much faster than cold water. That's why if you have a glass of cold water sitting on your countertop, you're just going to see little pieces of ice floating around. But if you have a pot of boiling water on the stove, you're going to see vaporized water floating around at the top. So hot water evaporating much faster than cold water is part 1 of the equation that makes our experiment work. Frisky physics factor number 2. Saturation, the state or process that occurs when no more of something can be absorbed, combined with, or added. I used to live in Las Vegas, Nevada, which, as you know, is a desert. And there it is hot, sunny, and bright. In the summertime, it can hit triple digits, but people say it's a dry heat. All that really means is that there's not a lot of moisture in the air. But if you live in the southeastern part of the United States, you have a whole different kind of summer experience. There, people say in the summertime that when you walk out your front door, you take your second shower. That's because the air is humid, which just means that there's a lot of moisture in the air. But even though you can't see it, you can sure feel it. But whether you live in Las Vegas or South Carolina, Cold air doesn't hold very much moisture at all. So dry cold air is the second part of our equation that makes our experiment work. Heat makes things expand. Like in the summertime when you hit the beach, you lay out your towel, you stretch out, and you soak up some rays. Cold, however, makes things contract and get close together and dense. Like when you wrap your arms around yourself because your father locked you outside when you went to check the mail. What that basically means is that in cold air, the molecules are just so packedly tight together and dense that there's not much room left for the moisture to be added into the air. And that's our third and final part into the equation that makes our experiment work. Number 1, you have hot water evaporating really fast. Into number 2, cold air that is really dry. And number 3, where it's really dense and there's not much room for moisture to be added. And that's where you see the steam floating off into the sky. This experiment can teach us something about life. You've probably heard before temperatures being used as emotions. You can either be as cold as ice or boiling hot anger. And when we hold on to our anger, like putting water in a pot and putting it on the stove, it just sits there and simmers and simmers and boils until eventually it boils over and creates one huge mess. When our anger boils over, like water boiling over, people can get hurt. But with God's help, we can let go of our anger, just like throwing that pot of boiling water into the air, and be amazed at how fast it seems to disappear and float away.
Hey, so that's a fun one. I didn't want to say this at the beginning. It's not actually quite finished. If you watch it, you may have seen a couple of mistakes or some things that were not quite finished yet. Green screen can be challenging at times. So we'll polish that one up a little bit and post it, but it's probably 90% done. But that's a fun experiment. If you haven't tried it, tell us in the comments, have you ever done the hot boiling water into cold frigid air? If you toss it, it evaporates, in the air. And here in Nebraska, it evaporates about 85%. You have to get really, really cold temperatures. Like if you see on YouTube, you'll see some where they just toss it and then whoosh, it's gone. And those are usually in Siberia or the North Pole, where they got way, way frigid cold temperatures. And the colder it gets, the faster the hot water evaporates and just poof into smoke. And then when it's not so cold, like here in Nebraska, it's cold enough, but it doesn't evaporate like it does, in Siberia. But anyway, it's a fun little experiment to do. You do have to be careful, though, because if it's windy, which in Nebraska, that happens a lot. We just happen to have a day or two of no wind. If it's windy and you throw it into the wind, it's boiling water and it can come back and hit you. And so you don't want to ever throw it into the wind. Better to do it with no wind, but if it's windy, throw it, so the wind takes it away from you. Anyway, that's a fun little experiment we did. And I am run out of things to say. So I'm going to look at Miranda, who's going to now talk intelligent words, unlike what I've been doing.
Okay, well, when I watched this morning, I liked how Aspen wrapped it up with the feelings that can either be boiling over or as cold as ice, because I thought, wow, that really does is a definition of what infatuation is.
Oh, yeah.
Because when we're infatuated with something, whether it's a thing or a person, we must have it. And tell me any addiction that you've ever had that you can ever have too much of, right? I mean, that pretty much doesn't happen. Unless, of course, you finally indulge until you just become absolutely disgusted with yourself and it. And so now here you got the hot feelings and the cold feelings, and that kind of seems where addiction and infatuation lies. It's either one or the other. There's really no in-between feelings that you have for your addiction or the person that you're infatuated with, because if you had normal, average love feelings for them, you would not be infatuated. So there's a difference between love and infatuation.
That's
and
the Casablanca.
Yeah, the Casablanca movie.
It was amazing to me. We were talking about different movies. You ever been like where you had movies and like, oh, let's watch a movie. Okay, so what should we watch tonight? 2 hours later, you decide, we can't find it. Let's just go to bed. Yeah.
That's us all the time. All the time.
I think it's most of America are people who just like, but I was really surprised once. I just assumed that we had done the movie Casablanca one, but we hadn't. So when was it? A week ago?
Yeah, because it was for Valentine's Day. We watched it for Valentine's.
Yes.
So yeah.
Watched Casablanca for Valentine's Day.
Because Aspen had never seen it.
Right. Yeah, Aspen. I had mentioned. I'd even done some quotes from it just in passing, and she's like, "Huh?" I was like, Casablanca. I was like, huh? So we had to have her watch Casablanca so she can understand my humor. I'm not sure it's going to help. But anyway, in Casablanca, if you didn't know, Humphrey Bogart and, what's her name? Ingrid Bergman? Yeah, Ingrid Bergman. They had this thing going on. If I'm not old enough to know that, my father told me, and then I, read up on it in history books. Not that I was there. And anyway, they had a thing going, and it was interesting because we know from, reading about it now that they had this thing going where it was, hot and passionate, but then also they were known to throw things at each other and, in rage, and how many times you see somebody, in one situation where, they're just longingly looking at each other's eyes and hugging and kissing, and then 5 minutes later, someone's chucking a lamp at the other one, and the other one's throwing a, lazy boy back at them. And, that hot and cold. And it's not just them. There's other, Hollywood couples anyway. I'm sure it happens to, outside of Hollywood, but I only know about Hollywood, where people have gotten together in the, heat of the moment or the, passion of making a movie together, and then, later they're at each other's throats. I think the latest is, if you've kept up with the news, Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake, and how he's apologizing for all the bad things he did to her, and so, yeah, the hot and cold, and it's like, passion, and then I'm going to just destroy you, it's polar opposites. What else was I supposed to say?
I think that's it.
That was it.
Okay.
That was my contribution for the day.
Yes. Moving on, I think point number 2 was, or was that number 1? Vaporization.
Vaporization.
Yeah. So hot vaporizes faster than cold, as we know. The cold water sitting there on the stove in the pot is not going to vaporize until you, very, very slowly, until you add the heat underneath it, and then it will start to vaporize. Well, we too, when we allow the Holy Spirit to heat us up, we will get rid of ourselves faster, which is what we need to do in order for God to be revealed in us, and so that's always a good thing. In the meantime, if we avoid the Holy Spirit and the work that He wants to do in our lives, we just stay in the same place, or we get bigger and stay focused more on self, rather than allowing God to be working in us. Then we have dry air versus humid air. You can't see it, but you sure can feel it. Well, that's kind of how the Holy Spirit works. Take, for example, if you got on the airplane in Vegas, and before you got on the airplane, it's dry there. Dry in Vegas. And so you fly to Florida. When you get off the airplane, you could even have your eyes closed, and you would know that you're no longer in Vegas, because the humidity in the air of the South is just entirely noticeable. And so too will our lives be changed noticeably when we allow the Holy Spirit to saturate.
Yes.
And that's the next word, saturate.
Saturation.
Our hearts.
Yes.
So density, saturation. What are our hearts saturated with? Are they saturated with the love of God? Or are they saturated with love of the things of this world? Infatuation with the things of this world. Anyways, that's always something to think about. What are we spending more of our time and effort accumulating? Are we accumulating more of the things of God, or are we accumulating more of the things of this earth?
Yeah. Quick thing. Thank you, Mike. I mentioned it in the messages too, but in case you missed, Mike Collum, yes, absolutely use any of the, and in fact, anybody watching, we make these videos that Aspen does for anybody to use. She has a YouTube channel, and I'm having her type the link to her YouTube channel into the comments. And but yeah, absolutely feel free to use any of them. We've got, I don't know, how many videos do you think you got, Aspen? Probably 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. We're getting close to 30. So.
Oh, right, because we started a year ago, almost a year ago, in about April or so. Yeah, I think we added up, and with 52 weeks in a year, probably getting at least 35-ish, don't you think?
Close to, yeah, and some of them are, I think there's 2 or 3 that are, 2 of them that are Bible doodles, where she has the hand that draws the pictures while telling the story. Those are kind of fun. But yeah, absolutely, that would be great. And I promise I'll fix this one and get it up.
Yes. Okay, so Aspen also talked about how cold air makes things dry, and we had Brett showed her wearing her winter coat, and she was contracting, she was getting smaller because it's cold, and that's what happens when we are not saturated with the water of the Holy Spirit. It makes us draw inward, look more to self. We become smaller because our infatuations of the gods of this world keep us focused on what we want and what we need in order to be who we have created ourselves to be. And that keeps us that keeps us small. It's much like the people who scrape just that little tiny space on their windshield when there's ice on it.
Guilty of.
Yeah. So but on the other hand, heat makes things expand. And so, when summer comes along, off comes the winter coat, off comes the rubberized waterproof boots. And now we start to expand in more comfortable clothing and as Aspen said, lie on the beach and such. And
don't get cancer.
That's what living the love of God does for us. When we let Him come into our hearts, He expands that love. We are now looking outward and what we can do for God and what we can do for others, and that just creates a much, much bigger world for us than staying focused on self.
Yeah, like the addiction, we say that an addict's world becomes smaller and smaller and smaller over time because the focus becomes whatever the object of the addiction is. If it's alcohol or drugs, and then usually everything becomes related to or focused on getting that hit, getting that thing. And again, it can be relationships, it can be your job, it can be workaholism, it can be content, but your world slowly shrinks into that, one focus, and you're like, when can I get my next hit? When can I get my next drink? When can I, be with that person I absolutely have to have? All those things get, boom, down to here. Whereas the, warmth of the the heat of God's love does open your world, because now you're not focused on that one, that you're focused on all the opportunities God brings into your life, like, oh, I can make a difference here. Oh, I can pull this person out of the snowbank. I can push this person into the snowbank. No, don't do that.
That's not true love.
That's not true. Unless they want to be, they're asking to be. See?
Yeah.
So it opens up your world, greatly. And I think that's part of what Jesus meant, when the love of many will wax cold, He says it's got focused on, like, their love is going to be toward an object, a thing that they've made their God.
And interesting how He said cold.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about infatuation versus love. Yesterday morning I thought, I've got to wrap up what we're talking about this week. I wasn't real happy with what I had yet. And so when I woke up, I started thinking, what can I use to illustrate real love versus infatuation? And I thought, oh, hey, I remember some story about some stuffed animal that became real somehow or other. What was that again? Oh, it's the story of the Velveteen Rabbit. And sometimes it's as simple as truth that just, I mean, the simplest of things that reveal the greatest of truths. And the story of the Velveteen Rabbit, he goes through rejection, he goes through true love, and he ends up in a place where he's facing entire destruction by fire.
Yeah, and I had never seen this book before, The Velveteen Rabbit. I think I had heard it. There's actually a movie too, but put us in the comments if you're like me. You have read The Velveteen Rabbit or you haven't read The Velveteen Rabbit. Let us know which side of the fence you're on, because I was on, hadn't read The Velveteen Rabbit, and she was very surprised that I had never read this book. But
the book was written in 1922.
Oh, when I was born?
Well, your grandparents probably read it.
My grandparents read it, yes.
But anyways, as I was lying there thinking about it, I thought, I wonder what life experiences the author of this book must have potentially have gone through in order to write a story like that about rejection and true love and standing on the edge of utter destruction. What had happened in her life for her to put that into a simple story for children, and maybe she hoped that someone could gather strength as they went through their own journey of rejection and true love. And many of us probably at some point in time stand on what we would consider the brink of utter destruction.
Yeah.
And, here's a story, just a simple children's story, that someone else has been through the same thing.
What is Velveteen?
Velveteen.
Sounds like a bad chocolate milk substitute.
I don't know. I think it's sort of like velvet.
Oh, okay.
Only it's not velvet. It's a stiffer velvet.
It's a...
Velvet is soft.
Yeah.
Velveteen is kind of stiffer. It's not as plush.
It's a cheap substitute for velvet.
It's a musical group.
It's a musical group as well. So we have, here's Velvet, but for you budget shoppers, here's Velveteen. Velveteen, the new... I don't know. Anyway.
Right.
And Lisa Buller has heard of the Velveteen Rabbit.
Oh, Lisa has heard of the Velveteen Rabbit. Have you ever read it? It might be...
She has read it to kids in kindergarten.
I was going to say, it might be a great book to read, to your kindergartners. Oh, Mike, I used to do this. If you haven't done this, Mike, you should do this sometime. Get your own collection of children's books that have points like this. They are so much fun to either open a sermon with or end a sermon with.
Or preach the whole sermon
Or preach the whole sermon, because you said, those can be.
Wait, yeah, Brett usually ends his sermons with them.
Yeah, I would do this sermon. It's and so for the deep theological minds, I have this, and then I would read this children's book. It's really kind of, because, C.S. Lewis, the Chronicles of Narnia, children's books, but profound. Wait, who was it you said you should target your message to children?
Oh, Jose Rojas.
Oh, Jose Rojas.
Well, he was quoting Ellen White.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quoting Ellen White.
Yeah, because many people who are listening don't have a deep understanding of Christianity or God or spiritual truths, and so we need to make it simple. And then the simple truths, of course, become depth for those who have more knowledge already. So, anyways, I thought, wow, I could use this story to illustrate what we're talking about today. And so like we mentioned before, The Velveteen Rabbit was written in 1922, and it tells the story of a stuffed rabbit, for those of you who don't know, who wants to become real through the love of its owner.
It's kind of like a Pinocchio story.
Yeah, and so we're going to stop right there for a moment and start our illustration of how this works.
Yay. So the person, the Velveteen created, if it wants to be real, transformed by the love of its owner.
Yes, and I think we're all searching for that. The realness. I think we pretend really far too much in life because we don't even know what reality is, because we focus so much on things that aren't real. And I'm guessing Aspen is keeping us on track for the 1 hour mark today. Yes, thank you. The world thanks you, Aspen.
Yes, the world thanks you.
Yes.
Yeah, are we all on this journey to find genuineness? Because, remember, it's probably still a big thing, but Instagram, you had these trends where it was hashtag blessed or hashtag genuine. What was the other one? What was the early on? We used to say,
Grateful,
blessed, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I remember the grateful one. I don't know why that one irritated me so much. It's great to be grateful.
Yeah.
It really is, but it just became such a cliche word that maybe it just grated on me because I don't know. I guess maybe it didn't feel real eventually.
Eventually, it's kind of, if you look it up, this, you know what humble bragging is. That's what a lot of times some of this Instagram stuff, turns into. And, have a great house, lovely car, lots of money, # grateful not to be you. So,
Well, kind of seems that way.
Yeah.
Maybe I was on the end. Maybe I was a person that they were grateful they weren't like.
Yeah.
Could be. Yeah.
I'm not dissing all Instagram. Don't get me wrong.
No.
It's just sometimes you read something and you're like, oh, come on.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that sort of thing, I don't keep up on Instagram, but I do read the news on occasion. It pops up every now and again. And so I found it interesting that, so all of a sudden skinny jeans and side parts are out, just like entirely out. You're not cool if you have skinny jean part and side parts anymore.
Yep.
So in honor of that, I have borrowed a pair of Aspen's mom jeans today. Look how unskinny these things are.
Yeah.
And I parted my hair down the middle.
Yeah.
No side part for me. I'm totally cool for about the next 5 minutes.
Yes, until all changes again.
Yes, until some kid on Instagram says, "Oh, no, that's not working anymore. You have to." I don't know.
Yeah.
What the next cool thing will be.
You used to have to wait a decade for it to change, but no, now.
Yeah,
over the weekend.
In
boom.
just a day, all of a sudden, all the ladies wearing skinny jeans and parting their hair down the middle have realized how old and uncool that they are.
Yes. I think the clothing industry has a bunch of teenagers working for them, and they pay them, all right, let's change the trend now. Everybody, Instagram, new style, boom, and then they change the world.
Yeah, but so we've become infatuated, say, with styles, for example.
Why do we get infatuated with styles when we all know the 80s was the best style that will ever come?
I can move on. I can move on, but
you can move on.
Anyways, yeah, we place who we are in whether or not we're wearing skinny jeans or mom jeans, or whether or not, or we judge other people by whether or not their hair is parted down the side or down the middle. Mm-hmm. And yet, that's not at all that's infatuation in our own selves and what we think we have to be and have to do, or have to do and have to have in order to be.
Yeah.
That's pretending. That is pretending. Mm-hmm. What do you really think? Do you look great in skinny jeans and you're far too short? Like some people in this house, to wear wide leg jeans, mom jeans. And Aspen's laughing because she knows her jeans are safe. So my jeans that I bought for me are safe in Aspen's hands. Yes.
I just humble brag. So if you know me for any length of my life, you'll know that I'm pretty basic. I have worn the same thing since the 80s. I buy Levi's jeans. I try and get white tennis shoes. I'm just pretty basic.
By the way, Aspen told me white tennis shoes are back.
Yes,
they're in. You are so cool, Brett.
And Levi's, I'm popular again. Yay! Yeah. And my hair, I almost all my life part it in the middle, because when I try and do it on the side, it doesn't like that, and then on its own it goes back to the middle. So
right, but he'll come home from getting his hair cut sometimes, and it'll be styled in something interesting.
Yeah, something interesting.
Yeah.
It doesn't last long.
No, it doesn't.
Yes.
His hair knows his hair knows who it is.
Yes, it knows its personality, and we're not going to change it.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, that's interesting that it's all changing back. Wow.
Yeah, so anyways, we say that we know that it's not what's on the outside, but what's on the inside is counts. But, and we say that we know that it's not so much about receiving love as it is about giving it. But do we actually live out that truth? Mm-hmm. Do we actually, in reality, take a hard look at how you live. Are you actually living out what you're saying? That it doesn't matter what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside. That it doesn't matter so much about giving or about as receiving as it does about giving. But how is it that you're living?
Yeah.
So let's say that we buy a brand new Ferrari.
Yeah.
We aren't going to.
Oh, never mind.
I don't want a Ferrari anyways. I'm just using it. I'm just using that as an example because everyone knows what a Ferrari represents and such.
Yeah.
And so just so you know, Brett, what I really want is the new RAV4.
Yes, I want the new RAV4 too.
Yeah, because
those are awesome.
Well, for starters, I had the old RAV4.
Yes.
And that thing was the best, most reliable, trustworthy car you could ever want to drive. Now, it had all of about, I think, 127 horsepower, but I drove that thing like it had 300.
Yeah.
Low 5-speed, let's go! Yeah, but it stuck to the road in snow and ice. I could come to a standstill on a hill that was solid ice and hadn't been graveled yet and take off in my little 5-speed without spinning the tires. That is how good that car will stick to the road. And so anyways, when Brett and I got married, my car was almost 10 years old. And Brett's car was probably about a year old. Yeah. If that, yeah. And so he was looking at my car thinking silently to himself, because I loved my RAV. He was thinking silently to himself, well, yeah, we'll have to replace that thing soon. Oh my. He ate those words many years later.
Yes.
Actually, probably not that many years later.
Not that many, yeah.
Because, I mean, my car, of course, by the time it was, we met, it was well paid for.
Yeah.
I had made payments on it in quite a number of years. And I can think of maybe about 2 or 3 times when we did some maintenance on the RAV, because it would go years without any maintenance. So Brett would take it in, and we might spend $1,000 or $500 or something. But after several years of nothing for the car outside of gas and an oil change, it was really pretty cheap to maintain it. Yeah. And it never broke down. I drove it for at least 18 years until my son wrecked it.
We would still be driving it, except...
my youngest son wrecked it.
We love you, Colby.
Well, we won't say Brett's part in not replacing the car.
Oh. It's Colby's fault.
Would you like to share it with the world?
No, I don't think we have time. So, moving on.
So anyways, yeah.
No, I didn't get the... I got the insurance, because we were doing the insurance on both cars, and when I renewed the insurance, somehow it didn't pick up the RAVs, because I did it online. It didn't pick up covering the RAV.
Yeah, 100, full coverage.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was so crazy because the entire time we'd had this old car, by now it was 18 years. I got it new, Yeah. So 18 years we'd carried full coverage on this car. A week before it gets wrecked.
Yeah.
1 week. We no longer have full coverage.
Yeah.
But anyways, so all things work together for good. And so now we're set to buy a new RAV4, Brett.
Yes, new RAV4.
A new one.
Those are good.
Oh, you know what sold me on the new RAV4? It's 302 horsepower. Not only do you get the benefits of a trustworthy, reliable car, but it has 300 horse. Yeah. Okay.
The world will soon not be as safe as it used to be.
The car that Brett had, that was relatively new when we got married, wouldn't have to replace for years, right? Because, how new it was.
It was new.
And, it was a super fun car to drive because it was a 5-speed with a turbo. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. We both loved that car. The joy it gave us when it was running was ecstatic itself.
Subaru Baja.
Yeah. But I tell you what, that thing broke down
all the time.
All of the time. I mean, we still made payments on the thing, and we were still dropping $1,000 repairs into it, $1,500 repairs into it. There was nothing cheap about fixing that car. Yeah. Nothing. Multiple times over.
Well, it was the turbo that kept breaking, and
there's some other stuff though too.
There are a few things. The turbo was the
main thing,
big expensive thing.
Yeah.
But we'd fix it, and then 3 months later, it would burn out again, and I could never. I was like, I'm not doing anything wrong here, because they're like, you keep burning out because you let the oil run dry. I was like, I know I'm not letting the oil run dry.
Yeah.
Later, after we got rid of it, I found out that it had been an error on Subaru's part, where they had this thing in the turbo where it actually choked itself of oil. And at the time, they didn't tell anybody. They just said to their dealerships, hey, if someone brings it in, swap it out for the new part, because the original has a way of choking
but
itself.
That was eventually, and in the meantime, we paid $1,500 every time that thing
And I didn't tell you the dealership
down.
Because this guy was doing it for like 2/3 the cost that the dealership would do it. So I never got the new part. I just kept getting the old part and it kept breaking.
So anyways, finally, no sooner, we had just paid the car off. we had just paid the Baja off.
Yeah.
And it broke down so badly that it was now more to repair it than it was worth.
Yeah.
So that's when we traded it in on our trustworthy Subaru Outback,
Yes.
which we have now driven for 8 years.
time.
It has not broken down. The only thing that's ever needed now is oil changes and a couple sets of new tires.
That's right.
So anyways, we're super thankful for a reliable car. Now, I think you can get the point. Okay, well, for starters, whenever we went on a road trip of any length at all, we took the RAV.
Yeah.
It was an older car,
Yeah.
but we knew it was going to get us
Yeah.
there and back. The Baja, even though it was so much fun to take out there on the freeway and drive with its turbo, no, we couldn't take it on the road like that because we couldn't be sure of getting home
Yeah.
without major repairs.
Aspen, how old was Aspen? She had to be like 2 or 3, because like in the RAV, we were on a trip, and she'd sit in her back seat, her seat, and she'd look out the window and she'd sing, "Hello rocks, hello trees, hello bushes." But when we put her in the Baja, she'd go, "Zoom, zoom, zoom, zoom."
It was a fun car.
Yeah. I have video of that. I'm going to show at her wedding one day.
Yeah. Sadly, they're not making as many 5-speeds as they used to. So I think we may just have to make do with an automatic. But
Comments. Do you like automatic or manual transmission?
yeah, we like manuals, both of
I
us.
love manuals.
Love it.
Yeah.
But like I said, the car manufacturers are getting away from that. So anyways, I think this story is pretty self-explanatory about how we will stick with something that's trustworthy and reliable over something really that's fun but likely to break down. And that's true love versus infatuation. Didn't matter how much horsepower the Baja had. I'd buy a 127 horsepower RAV over it any day. So it would be just a little hard.
Yeah,
And
I was
sad.
infatuated with the Baja
Yeah.
because of its performance and what it looked like, and and I had faith and trust and confidence,
True love.
in the
Yeah.
RAV, and then that kind of a definition of infatuation. Infatuation tends to be more about what you can do for me, what I get from you,
And-
whether love is actually what I can give in this honest, trusting relationship.
And the Baja, the good stuff it did for us was like so much fun.
Yeah.
It's just really exhilarating.
We have a comment.
But
You have multiple comments.
Multiple comments. Yes, Aspen.
So earlier, Mike Collins says Toyota makes a great car.
Yes,
Yes.
they do. Toyota. Do you guys have Toyotas in Australia? Do you have cars in Australia?
ask them if they have the 2-door RAV.
Oh, if you have the 2-door RAV, I want one.
Yeah.
You buy it, I'll pay you back.
When he gets a job.
When I get a job, yeah.
Lisa Foley says, I keep a manual. And then
Yes.
Auntie says, I have both, but I love manuals.
So Lisa Bowler, she has a manual, right? Yes, way to go. Stick with that manual. And then Miranda's sister has 2 cars. She has both. So she has a
RAV.
RAV. And it's she has manual entry. Yeah, I learned on a do you ever have someone you need to learn how to drive a manual?
Oh yeah, get Brett to teach him. He won't tell anybody the secrets except the person that he's teaching. And then they won't share either. My own son has not shared the secret with me. I mean,
my personal recipe, no fail, teach you how to drive stick shift in 10 minutes.
well, I'll have you know, I didn't need his help.
No, she didn't
So-
need my help at all. Nothing I could have done for her.
No, I got in and I may have clunked it out once or twice, but then I drove it.
Yeah.
But he wasn't there, so if he was there, I'd have probably let him help me.
She'd have pretended. Oh, yes, dear. Thank you for that. A brilliant insight. Yes, we have another comment.
Mike Collins says, had a manual all my life until 2005, got an automatic, and never went back.
Oh.
Yeah, so if you guys are watching, Mike Collins, a friend of mine, we went to high school together, and he's in Australia now, and he's correcting all my misperceptions of Australia. I thought you guys just rode around like kangaroos and wombats. I didn't know you had cars. That's cool. Feel free to make fun of the States, Mike, as I make fun of Australia. I love Australia.
What automatic did you get that you were won over by?
What did you get?
Yeah. Because I think I could certainly be happy with the automatic that the new RAV4 has, because Yeah, I mean 300 some horsepower.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah,
kind of.
got that.
Yeah.
More comment.
Lisa Buller says, I should have known that when teaching Noel in the Mountain View church, or not Mountain View, but
Yeah.
that church.
Yeah.
Parking lot. And says, I thought I'd have nervous breakdown before he learned.
Yes, teaching your own child to drive is a challenge.
Yeah, I tried with Colby. I don't know why he didn't get it. It's probably the nervousness that parents are, and the nervousness probably the parent has. I tried, but my pretending clearly was not good enough.
No. Yeah, so my dad taught me how to drive I think he spent 5 minutes with me. And I remember because we had a couple cars, because it was me, my brother, and sister, and there was one car that was a stick shift and the rest were manual. Well, my sister and everybody else drove the manuals, and that one car would sit there as a stick shift. And I had a learner's permit, but I couldn't drive a stick shift, and so I was stuck at home all day. And I complained, and I was finally like, Dad was heading out the door. And I was like, fine, I'll just stay here again all day long with the car sitting in the, all right, fine, get down here. And so he put me in the car, and we drove around the little, neighborhood we were in at the time. And after 5 minutes of, do this, what are you, an idiot? How did you ever come from my loins? And then finally I learned how to get by. And I just spent that whole day driving a stick shift for the first time around Columbia, and that's how I learned how to drive it, which is how I came up with my fail-proof method of learning to drive stick, because it's the same way I had to learn, figuring it out for yourself. I don't know why I told you that story, but it's true. And I love that car. True love. It was a Toyota. It was.
Okay.
Yeah. It was for doing cars. I actually got a brand new car. I drove that for a while. My dad in college gave us a car for college, and he bought me a brand new Subaru, which turned out to be junk as well, the Subaru XT. And I kept driving that old Toyota, even when I had the Subaru, because I loved that car. And the Subaru was really cool, slick, red, and like a wedge, and it was like a cool car. And yet I had a hard time letting go of the Toyota.
Yeah, well, I remember Colby because he was going to be at the age where he could inherit our old car, while we got something else. And he was not impressed with the RAV at all. He was not going to be happy driving the RAV. Well, once he started driving it, he picked up that he really liked it. And he was all ready to buy a 5-speed, and because he learned what a great car it was. So
on we go, because it's over an hour now. I know.
Yeah. No.
We are. Yes, 1 hour.
Oh, we're at 1 hour. Oh dear. Well, let's finish up with the Ferrari illustration, and then maybe we can wrap it up, because we're kind of right there in the middle of the Ferrari illustration. Okay. So back to the brand new Ferrari. It's not going to start up if you fill up the gas tank with water. It's just going to sit there. And so it may look great doing it. It's going to look great sitting there.
Yep.
And people will admire it. But it's kind of disappointing to have such a great car and you can never take it out for a drive.
Yeah.
And so our lives aren't going to start up when we keep filling it up with infatuation of things. We're just never going to be real.
Mm-hmm.
Because infatuations are not real. We need the real love of God in us. And we can stop pretending then. Mm-hmm. Because now we have real love, which means we can have real forgiveness and real joy and real peace and all of those real things that we really want. Mm-hmm. And we will never have when we keep just sucking up to our infatuations and clinging to them and holding on to them and loving them. So anyways, just like the car, the Ferrari, any car, comes with an instruction manual, and it tells you what kind of gas you need to put in it, what kind of oil you need to put in it. And so too, our manufacturer gave us an instruction manual and tells us what to put inside of us, basically the oil and the gas. And he tells us the two main things that we need to be doing is loving God and loving others. We get told we need to love ourselves more. I tell you what, that's a whole sermon in itself. We've done that before. Maybe we should do it again. Loving ourselves is not the number one thing we need to do. We listen to God. We love Him. We love others. That's where pure, true, uninfatuated love comes from. You know, all of that. All that. Only when we follow the directions that God gives us. So, anyways, yeah, moving on, because we've been on for an hour. We don't want to bore people to death. Unless, Aspen's picking up the, do we want to do a Mad Lib or not?
Probably not.
Yeah, let's do it next time.
Yeah, do it next time. We'll do that. So, and because, I say this, SALT, seeking a living truth. What's the simple, practical way of, everyday living out, kind of what we're talking about, true love versus infatuation. So here's my challenge. Here's our challenge for you. Take a look, and this is good to do, no matter where you're in life, and to do over and over again. But sit down with God sometime, and, pull out some paper and pencil and just kind of go through your head, look at your life. What things would you put in a column of, like, this is real, these things, these people, here's stuff that I believe I really love. And then look at things like, here are things where, maybe I'm just really infatuated with these things. It's not so much about, loving, honest, trusting relationship, but it's more about what these things or people or this stuff can do for me. And, kind of separate in your life, the things that are really important, things that maybe seem important but aren't really. And, ask God to help you go through that list. And because, when we talk about having the love of God, we talk about having faith, we talk about we do this with the understanding that all of that is a gift from God. It's not something you generate from yourself. It's something you ask God for. God gives us faith. God builds our faith. God gives us love. He builds us love. It all has to come from Him. And so when you're making those lists, and then, every day, ask God for, God, bring me into a moment today where I can, genuinely love someone or some things, generally do a loving action. Like we were talking about earlier with the, pulling somebody out of snowbank. That's loving your neighbor, being a snow angel and shoveling snow. Just sometimes the simplest things of listening to somebody, taking time to listen, is a loving thing.
And the thing is, you don't have to step outside your home in order to do a loving action for someone. Just start at home. It's the simplest, not necessarily the easiest always place to start, but it is certainly the simplest place, and the place that is right there in front of your face to be able to start doing it right there. God didn't expect you to travel the world in particular to love people. You don't have to take a step outside your door. You can just love people inside who are inside your house.
Which,
already.
As we all know from reading the news, can be a real big challenge in the COVID days. How many people, if you haven't, you should look up couples in COVID. And there's some really interesting stories about people who were, married for 20 years, but always and now they're forced to be in a house together. And it's like, things I never knew, it's kind of fun. But that is true. It's a great place to start, from your home base, and loving people there, and then, moving out. And just look for those situations every day where you can do something easy, simple, and loving.
Yeah, and Brett talked about making a list. Personally, from my own personal experience, I never made a list on a piece of paper for that, but mentally, I've gone ahead and asked God to, what's the next thing that you would like to see changed in my life? How can I focus more on you? And don't think He won't answer you, because I tell you, if you are interested at all in a closer relationship with God, He is right there and all about that. And He will certainly let you know ways that you can grow closer to Him. And He will provide the opportunities for that to happen as well.
So, with that said, you just sparked an idea. I'm going to do another sign language thing.
Okay.
Because you said, ask God to go, and He will answer, right? He will come.
Yes.
So, the Bible promise, come near to God and He will come near to you. And Ellen White talks about you take, a turning towards God and He runs to you. That'd be the prodigal son.
Yes.
So, sign language with another Bible promise. So I'm going to try and do this once a week where I teach you a Bible promise and sign. It's going to be promo. It's going to be called SALT Shorts. and it's going to be a little bit of salt goes a long way. But I'm just going to try and teach a Bible promise in sign language. So come near to God, and He will come near to you. So you would go, come near to God, and He will come near to you. Okay, that's not exactly American Sign Language. That's more like signing exact English, but I'm doing that because that's what most people want. So again, come near to God, and He will come near to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very visual.
Visual.
Yeah. Yep.
So thanks for joining us, and we
had fun.
We enjoy it, and
we're glad you guys showed up because it's fun.
It's fun to do it and interact with you guys.
Yeah.
I guess next week we're going to be talking more about...
Yes, more about this, because it's like, we're going to talk about the Velveteen Rabbit and cover the whole story today. Clearly we got past the end. Well, we just barely covered the introduction.
Yeah.
And so, next week we can talk more about how the Velveteen Rabbit story relates to true love with God versus infatuation with the world.
I'll try to find the book. I thought we had it somewhere.
Yeah, in a box.
Money in a box.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for joining us. Happy Sabbath to everyone, and we'll see you next weekend.